The bell above the boutique door chimed like a small, polite alarm, and the scent of starch and roses rolled over me. I let the door close behind me, and for a moment the city noise fell away, replaced by the hush of silk and the soft hum of mannequin conversations. The place was called Marigold and Thread, a tiny bridal atelier tucked between a bakery and a bookstore, and it had become my favorite secret for reasons I wasn't ready to admit. My name is Leo. I'm 29, tall in a way that makes me easy to overlook in a crowd, and I photograph weddings for a living. On paper, my life looks tidy. Engagement packages, second shooter calls, lighting kits stacked like obedient soldiers in the trunk of my car. In practice, there's another side to me, one I keep pressed under the daily grind like a hidden Polaroid. At night, when the last guest's shoes hit the pavement and the cake is nothing but crumbs, I sometimes drive back to the places I've shot, imagining them through a different lens. I imagine lace-hugging curves I don't normally have, imagine high heels answering for me when my sneakers never could. That secrecy is something I cradle. Isabella knows parts of me. My terrible coffee habit, my obsession with capturing the candid laugh, but I never told her about the late-night experiments with dresses or the way my palms sweat at the thought of a silk hem sliding over my skin. She's patient, sharp, probably more intuitive than I give her credit for. We've been together 3 years. She's the person who can read the weather in my eyes. That's why borrowing a bridesmaid dress from her old college roommate felt reckless, borderline reckless, and utterly irresistible. Leo, you're early, called Marigold, the shop owner, from behind a rack of gowns. She was all silver hair pulled into a bun, and a laugh that smelled of chamomile. Busy season. Sit, tell me everything. I grinned and dropped my camera bag by the fitting room, an excuse masquerading as work. I need to test lighting for Anna's wedding next month. I want to try a shot with the bridesmaids' colors, get the fabric to glow right, and maybe get a feel for movement. Marigold cocked an eyebrow. You photographers and your moods. We have 3 sample dresses in that slate blue. Don't make a mess. She handed me a slim hanger and tried not to look too curious when I blushed. The slate blue fabric felt dangerously cool and impossibly soft as I carried it toward the studio light. The seam whispered under my fingers, fine stitching, a little nib of beadwork that caught the light like a secret. The dress was modest, tea-length with a plunging back and a bodice that suggested shape rather than shouted it. Whoever wore it would look understated and incandescent. I told myself the plan was practical. Bridesmaids have angles too. A photographer who knows how a dress sits on a body can direct someone better. But honesty is a slippery thing, and as soon as I unhooked the hanger, the pulse at my wrists quickened. There's a private thrill in holding something intended for someone else. The way fabric carries another person's scent, even if that scent is faint and old. The dress smelled faintly of lavender and the memory of 100 fittings. Isabella would roll her eyes if she knew how much my palms trembled while I tied the gown on in the boutique's back studio. She would tell me to relax, to stop making theater out of life. She's always been practical about appearances. It's what's inside that counts, she says, but the way she brushes her hair and pulls on a lipstick tells a different story, one that I learned from. I love her for the contradiction. Mirrors lined the studio wall. In one, the slate blue draped differently than I expected. The hem brushed my calves, and the fabric clung in places that made my cheeks hot. I'd tried on thrift store finds, Halloween costumes, even a vintage suit once in a friend's theater wardrobe, but this was different. It fit like a promise. I turned slowly, studying the unfamiliar silhouette. My jawline looked softer. My shoulders seemed narrower. For a blink, my reflection could have been anyone. Someone carved from the photographs I'd admired and then secretly wished to become. God, you should see yourself in that light, Marigold said, softer now. She'd stepped close with a roll of tissue and a cup of tea. You have to do the hands a certain way, like this. Her fingers guided mine, teaching me how to hold the fabric so the beads caught the beam just right. The practical rationale calmed me. Test the flow, test the shutter speed for fabric blur, see how the dress moved when I stepped. But when I lifted one foot to test the swish, the whole room tilted. The world outside the boutique felt suddenly distant and unessential. The studio smell, the glint of a stand light, and that blue dress were everything. My breathing slowed in a way it seldom did. Marigold's assistant, a sullen grad student named Theo, hovered nearby with a reflector and an expression that said he'd rather be refining a thesis than witnessing my amateur performance. He didn't say anything about me because who would? A wedding photographer wearing a sample dress in the name of art was plausible. People let plausible things slide by. After a few frames, me positioning the fabric, arms raised, the flash capturing the silk sheen, I took the dress off and folded it like it was a book I shouldn't have opened too long. The thrill receded into a steady ache, equal parts shame and desire. I told myself I would box up the images, send Anna a sample sheet, and then forget the specific way the bodice had hugged me. I didn't forget. Of course I didn't. That night, I drove home thinking of imperceptible angles. Isabella was waiting at our small kitchen island with 2 mugs, her expression easy, the sort of normal that used to terrify me when I was younger and less confident. "How'd the light test go?" she asked, and I slid the spare mug toward her like a peace offering. "Good." I lied, because I tried on a bridesmaid dress and felt like a different person for 30 minutes, felt ridiculous out loud. She studied my face for a beat, amusement dancing in her eyes. "You always come back from shoots glowing. Tell me everything," she coaxed. "There are thresholds you cross in secrecy. Sometimes they're small, like trying a color that isn't you. Sometimes they're a step, and then a fall." The next Tuesday came with a frantic phone call from Anna, the bridesmaid emergency. One of her college friends had broken her ankle in a freak scooter accident. Could the bridal party squeeze the rehearsal earlier? Could the band arrive sooner? Could I somehow help? She spoke hasty and breathless into the phone, and before I could parse the details, she said something that lodged like a stone in my throat. "We need someone to step into the bridesmaid role for the rehearsal tonight. You're the photographer, Leo. You know the choreography. You've seen the dresses. Please? It would save us. Please." The word was blunt as a knife and sweet as honey. I heard Isabella's mug clink against the island as she listened.
She didn't ask why.
She just said, "If she needs you, go. I'll bring your charger." I agreed before I thought. Because sometimes doing the right thing bores a hole through the policy of the life you're trying to keep neat. Because part of me wanted to see the dress again. Because helping morphed immediately in my head into being. I told Anna I'd be there. I told myself it would be a rehearsal only, a temporary performance where I could stand on the sidelines as a placeholder. Practical, useful, harmless. But as I hung my camera bag on the peg by the reception desk and walked toward Marigold's studio with a borrowed hanger tucked under my arm, a cold, electric whisper threaded through my chest. This would change things. I didn't know how yet. I only knew it would. The next morning, I arrived at work early, determined to prove myself, to shake off the weird tension from last night's trial. But as I stepped into the sleek glass building, I noticed something strange. People stared. Not in a cruel way, but in that quiet, judging way that makes your chest tighten. Maybe it was the new uniform. Mr. Harlow had personally approved a new dress code, and for some reason, mine looked different. The shirt was tighter around my chest, the pants tailored closer to my hips. Even the fabric had a faint floral scent, something expensive and faintly feminine. I told myself it was just a mistake. But when I reached my desk, a small box waited for me. Black velvet with a note in Harlow's signature handwriting. "Confidence begins with presentation. Wear this." Inside, I found a silver bracelet. Elegant. Minimalist. But unmistakably designed for a woman. My fingers trembled as I clasped it around my wrist. Something about the gesture, small, harmless, felt like crossing a line. Moments later, Mr. Harlow appeared behind me. "Looks good on you," he said, voice smooth like a secret. I like when my employees understand subtlety. I forced a smile. "Thank you, sir." He leaned closer. "You're learning. Keep it up." That day, his control became visible in small, invisible threads, a compliment that lingered too long, a task that required me to observe female behavior for a marketing project. even a mandatory grooming session that he called research immersion. At first, I resisted. I wasn't some puppet. But every time I tried to protest, he disarmed me with charm and logic. You want the promotion, don't you? You want to understand your clients better, don't you? You said you trusted me, didn't you? By the end of the week, I was wearing tailored outfits he'd selected, meeting his female clients to study elegance, and even learning how to walk confidently in shoes that made me move differently, lighter, more balanced, more graceful. And yet, part of me started to like it. The attention. The power in subtle gestures. The way people notice me. I hated that realization. But I couldn't ignore it. That night, I got a message from Harlow. Dinner tomorrow. Formal attire. My driver will pick you up. My stomach twisted. This wasn't about work anymore, and deep down, I knew it. The dinner was held in a private penthouse suite overlooking the city. All glass, gold, and quiet piano music. I stood at the doorway in disbelief, wearing a silky black outfit that Harlow's assistant had arranged for me earlier that evening. The fabric shimmered against my skin, and for the first time, I didn't even recognize my own reflection. Harlow greeted me with that knowing smile. Beautiful, he said simply, handing me a glass of wine. I told you this version of you was worth seeing. I wanted to argue, to tell him this had gone too far, but something in his voice froze me. It wasn't a compliment. It was a statement of ownership. I swallowed hard. This isn't me, sir. He leaned back, swirling the wine in his glass. You say that every time, yet here you are, wearing what I chose, speaking the way I taught you, moving with the grace I showed you. The air between us thickened. My heartbeat echoed in my ears. Then he opened a leather folder on the table. Inside was a stack of papers, dense, typed, official-looking. This is your new contract, he said. It formalizes your position, my personal assistant. But it also includes a clause. One that ensures commitment. I frowned. What kind of clause? He smiled faintly. The kind that defines identity. As I read, my stomach dropped. The document wasn't just about employment. It included language about image, appearance, and representation, clauses that made my new persona legally binding under the company's branding. If I signed it, I wouldn't just be dressing like this for him. I would become this version of myself, publicly, permanently, and professionally. This isn't legal, I whispered. He chuckled softly. It's creative. You, of all people, should appreciate that. You wanted to be part of something powerful. This is your chance. My hands trembled. You manipulated me. Did I? He stepped closer, his eyes sharp. I gave you choices. You made them. Every step you took, every outfit, every lesson, every mirror you faced, was your decision. His words cut deeper than any threat, because somewhere, buried beneath my denial, I knew he was right. I had wanted approval, success, recognition. And now, here it was, dressed in silk and lipstick. The room spun as I realized the truth. I wasn't fighting him anymore. I was fighting myself. He held out a pen. Sign it, he murmured. Let her be born. You've already killed the old you. My hand hovered over the paper, heart pounding like thunder. Tears blurred the words. Then slowly, almost hypnotically, I signed. The sound of the pen scratching across the paper felt final. When I looked up, Harlow smiled with quiet triumph. Welcome to your new life, he said. My perfect creation. And in that moment, under the golden city lights, I realized I wasn't just his assistant anymore. I was his masterpiece. The music from the wedding still echoed faintly in my ears as I stood in front of the mirror, staring at the reflection that didn't belong to me anymore. The bridesmaid dress clung perfectly to my body, soft, elegant, and terrifyingly right. My makeup was smudged from dancing, and a loose strand of hair brushed against my cheek. But even like this, I looked beautiful. Too beautiful. The realization hit me like lightning. This wasn't a costume anymore. The dress, the heels, the voice I'd been practicing all night, it had all blended together until the person in the mirror didn't look borrowed. She looked real. Then my phone buzzed. It was a message from Isabella. We need to talk.
Now.
My throat went dry. She wasn't supposed to be back yet. She was still with the wedding party. How could she know? Did someone tell her what I'd done? Another buzz.
Don't change.
I'm coming upstairs. The room spun. My heart pounded so hard it drowned out everything else. Why would she say don't change? Did she already see me like this? Was this a trap, or something else entirely? Footsteps echoed in the hallway outside the hotel room. The door handle began to turn. Panic surged through me. I tried to rip off the wig, but my fingers froze halfway. Something deep inside whispered, don't. The latch clicked. The door creaked open just an inch. A sliver of light spilled across the floor. I caught a glimpse of a shadow, heels, and then a voice.
Soft. Calm.
Wow, Isabella said. You really did it. I turned, heart racing, unable to speak, and in that instant, I saw something glinting in her hand. A ring. A ring identical to the one she had worn when she made the bridesmaid wish. She smiled.
Slowly.
I told you once you put on that dress, it wouldn't just be for fun. The door closed behind her with a click, and I realized there was no way out.